Well, it's almost that time of year again, where the leaves turn brown, men stop shaving to fight cancer, Americans go crazy over huge discounts, and for one night, I get to chase children off my property because they wanted some candy in exchange for absolutely nothing. But obviously what I'm looking forward to more than any of those things is the big festival of AAA games releasing across the autumn and winter months. Gamers can finally get their taste on what the latest of entertainment that these hugely creative developers have been cooking. But if you want to especially talk about a busy day for gamers, look no further than February 22nd, 2019, where Anthem, Metro Exodus and Days Gone are all coming out on this single day, and I'm sure the majority of you watching are considering picking up one of these titles, or maybe more. After spending some time looking at the footage from these games and going back and playing the previous installments, for me, Metro Exodus at this time stands out as the most compelling. The Metro games are a first-person shooter combining elements of stealth, survival horror, and scavenging. Based on the Metro novels written by Dmitry Glukhovsky, the story takes place in a post-apocalyptic Russia after a nuclear war occurred in the year 2013, killing billions. However, humanity survived the tragedy by withdrawing to the underground metro stations, which is now their homes. Meanwhile, up on the surface, mammals like dogs, bears, snakes have all been mutated into these terrifying creatures that now roam the surface, and humanity, despite being on its last legs, with civilization gone, different ideologies over law and government cause more violence. They are now spread out into separate factions, all holding their own strongholds across the metro stations. The three main factions are the Communists, the Nazis, and the Spartan Order that you are a part of. And they are all fighting over control over this area called D6, to protect their people from this other more threatening and mysterious race that ascended from the surface after the nuclear war called the Dark Ones. Now, if there's one thing that I think the Metro games do better than possibly any other game, is the atmosphere. The presentation from beginning is so engaging. When you're at home in the underground stations, people talk to each other, often acknowledge your presence as you walk by, gunsmiths sell their equipment, and guards defend important properties. And when it comes to taking a trip onto the surface, it only takes a small glance until you should come to the conclusion that this is A+. It just looks so bleak and spooky. The threat of radiation is certainly present to this part of the world, so going up there with a gas mask is a must. There's a button to wipe your mask if your vision is a little bit blocked up. If you kill enemies that are very close to you, a hint of blood will spurt onto your mask. You can use your lighter to eliminate spider webs, and all these other little design choices that immerse you in the world. It just feels so much more grounded. You are just one human being after all, not some badass super soldier like you are portrayed in other first-person shooter games. It's worth noting as well that both Metro games will mess with your head. From time to time throughout the stories you will experience flashbacks and hallucinations that are very well done and psychologically teasing, but I could imagine for new players it could feel quite confusing and out of place, but I do think they serve a good purpose as you make your journey across post-apocalyptic Moscow. And despite this setting, the level design throughout the story has a surprising amount of variety to show for, so it really does feel like one big adventure.
I'm on my way from misery to happiness today. I'm on my way from misery to happiness today.
Amongst the great atmosphere within the world of Metro also holds its own arsenal of weapons and characters, all bringing their unique charm and twists. The weapons have a very significant look to them, from the shotguns to the snipers to the fan favourite AK-47 to other gadgets like throwing knives and explosives. Weapons that were created from scrap in the Metros after the nuclear war, some of which these guns have to run on air and you have to pump them to produce its full effect. And when you get back down to your Metro station home, there is a small selection of custom options you can choose from if you wish to approach your next target differently, but I would recommend having a good balance between the three weapons of your choice. And this now leads me on to the scavenging aspect of the game. As long as you don't play on the easiest difficulty, you will have to take care of business by exploring the areas that you discover, looting dead bodies in the areas that you're in, looking for different types of ammunition, medkits, gas mask filters, and hidden diaries that you can read about. Now, at first you might not see the point in exploring the levels, but trust me, when you least expect it, you'll either come up against a massive horde of mutants or a boss battle that will use up a lot of resources, and you will feel the payoff when you run out of ammo in the middle of the fight. With the impressive detail put into the presentation, the game does encourage you to stretch your legs out a little bit. For example, certain doors that can only be opened if you find this key that perhaps will have some credits in there to spend on customizing or buying weapons when you get back to your station. And along the way you will run into a few companions that will join you on your journey throughout some of the levels, most of which are pretty strong. They all have unique attitudes and perspectives on how they see the world that they live in.
Stay hidden. If we meet the beast in the open, crawl into the nearest crevice. Some people call these demons, I call them bitches.
And as for the mutated enemies that you will encounter throughout the game, they all have different behaviours and tactics for the player to choose on how they wish to take them down. The standard watchmen, who attack you head on in groups. You will need to hide in overhead shelter to avoid the flying demons, to stop them from picking you up and throwing you across the map. And the worst of them, the spider bugs, that are only vulnerable to your flashlight. The mutated creatures for me are what I think hold Metro up to being its own beast. It's what separates it from all other post-apocalyptic games. This idea of these once harmless creatures are now the ones who roam the world freely, and humanity are the ones living like animals. The presentation is one that's unlike any other. There are very few games I can think of that look this dark and gritty. The new games coming out soon like Red Dead Redemption 2, Cyberpunk, Anthem, are all visually stunning alike, but they all have a very common, brighter and vibrant look to them. And that's what I think makes the Metro games so gripping from start to finish, as it will likely take you about 10 to 15 hours to complete each story. So if you do fancy buying the Redux bundle, you'll be looking at possibly 20 to 30 hours. Now the only real negatives, or I guess subjective matters that the game has, is one, the game feels admittedly linear at times, packed full of detail no doubt in every mission, but especially on some of the missions where you are on the surface, despite having this long distance view of the environment, it still puts you through these small lanes that I can admit it feels quite disappointing at times. But that is something that 4A Games seems to be improving upon with Metro Exodus. Levels are looking to be much larger, but they still will be held together with more traditional linear levels. And 2, I would never recommend playing this game, or either game, through long game sessions. With the challenging stealth and gripping tension that is led by the game's atmosphere, the game constantly demands your full attention. So the more you play, that focus will slowly start to wear off, and it could start to get repetitive. I'll finish this off with a final word on how I'm feeling about the new installment Metro Exodus and how I feel it's shaping up. It looks incredible. That intense, action-packed, claustrophobic gameplay seems to have been retained, with new ways to approach objectives. A new crafting system where players can change the way the weapon operates on the fly, a full day-night cycle giving us several options on how we wish to approach our next encounter, and an interesting narrative where we find out that there is actually human life on the surface across Russia. And there's a lot of talk whether or not single-player games are becoming a thing of the past. God of War that released earlier this year was a big wake-up call, and I hope Red Dead Redemption 2 provides the finisher, and Metro Exodus gets the pin 1, 2, 3. And then I think we can all finally agree that single-player games deserve to be a part of the future of the gaming industry. If you wish to get caught up on the series, the Redux bundle including the 2 past Metro games, remastered, available on all 3 platforms, and Metro Exodus will be releasing worldwide on February 22nd, 2019. Once again on Xbox One, PlayStation 4 and PC. You guys take care of yourselves, have a good one, I'll see you all soon. Bye.
So you got me, you damned heretics.
Артем, jump!